The Wizard of Oz stories, the first of which was published in 1904, have long been interpreted as allegory of the American sociopolitical landscape. I think The Wiz, a Black American interpretation of The Wizard of Oz, is allegory about the post-emancipation Black American political experience, told in the visual and cultural language of minstrelsy. Though the vibes of The Wiz can be dark and downright dystopic, I think the message is meant to be one of racial uplift and forward progression. After all, the movie's signature song, Ease on Down the Road, an upbeat piece repeated throughout the film, is rife with platitudes about not letting obstacles get in the way of your goals. In keeping with the tradition of the Oz stories, Evillene, the Wiz's version of the Wicked Witch of the West, is the central villain, and once she is defeated, all of the protagonist's desires become possible. So think deeply about this. A movie set in an imagined 1970s Harlem about the obstacles stalling Black people's liberation and collective ambitions. Imagine the main villain that gets in the way of that desired progress as a fat, grotesque, angry, dark-skinned Black woman who demands the sweat of others.
When I wake up in the afternoon, which pleases me to do.
Few things in this world bring me as much joy as Evellene's No Bad News. It is the perfect villain's anthem and tells us all we need to know about her, her desires, and her point of view. Simply put, No Bad News tells us that Evillene doesn't care about us and she won't allow us to bring her down. She wakes up when she wants to, not when we need her. Evillene doesn't have time for our bullshit because she has her own problems. But surprisingly, her song doesn't sound like a typical villain song about death, destruction, and plotting the downfall of her enemies. Her song doesn't elicit fear. Instead, No Bad News is defensive and reactionary. A song sung by someone who is angry and preemptively guarded. It's giving tired and weary. While her actual behavior in the movie is detestable, when given the chance to air her grievances, Evillene basically says, leave me alone, don't ask me for nothing, and come to me like I'm a person and not your caregiver. Her song is in response to something.
Care what folks says about this family I does. I has told you and told you that you can always tell a lady but the way that she eat in front of folks like a bird. And I ain't aiming for you to go to Mr. John Wilkins's and eat like a field hand and gobble like a hog. Fiddle-dee-dee.
It's Mammy. It's Mammy, y'all. Evillene is responding to Mammy. We'll get back to Evillene in a minute, but I want to take this road of digression for just a second. The idea of Mammy arose in the American South in the years following the Civil War. Freed women were obligated to serve as domestic servants for the white families who formerly enslaved them. Mammy was a figment of the collective imagination of a defeated population who sought to clean up the image of the antebellum South. She was pure propaganda. The existence of an ever-faithful servant who loved her enslavers and whose only goal in life was to happily take care of their homes, their stomachs, and their emotional needs. See, chattel slavery wasn't all that bad. Some of them actually liked it. The United Daughters of the Confederacy took charge of the campaign to memorialize a sanitized version of Southern plantation culture and created the image of the doting Mammy who loved the family of her enslavers more than she loved her own. Mammy was protector and confidant. She never tired of taking care of others. She was awake before the household and went to bed after everyone was safely in their own beds. The idea of a self-sacrificing Mammy was so beloved that there was a campaign to erect a national monument honoring the very idea of her. And for the century following the Civil War, the face of the domestic household worker was almost always a wise, sturdy, good-natured Black woman who worked tirelessly for others. But by the 1930s, the image of Mammy had modernized as domestic work became more precarious. Even though by then, Black women were no longer considered to be beloved household members, they could still be counted on as reliable domestic service workers who were expected to perform childcare and household labor. In New York City, undercover exposés in the Black press began to detail how precarious, isolated, and dangerous the actual work was. Domestic workers were often exploited, cheated, overworked, and underpaid. They had also been one of the few categories of workers who were excluded from the newly created Social Security program, which would have helped to ensure a decent quality of life in old age. Mammy was now a day laborer who needed to find work in a different household every day. There was a notorious Bronx slave market where Black women from Harlem would travel and await a white person to approach them with a work opportunity for the day. Or if women were lucky enough to have consistent work for one family, they might have a long daily commute to Westchester or Connecticut, while their own family still lived in poor segregated neighborhoods like Harlem. In such cases, they might have to spend part of the week in the suburbs and come back to their own families for their 1 or 2 days off. By the late 1960s, Black women had begun to leave domestic service work in droves as new opportunities began to arise due to expanded civil rights, educational access, and opportunities to do other kinds of work, most notably in the public and governmental sectors. Also, civil rights gains made it illegal for states to discriminate against previously eligible Black women from receiving cash benefits through the Aid to Families with Dependent Children program, or AFDC, commonly known as welfare. As the market for domestic laborers continued to shrink and domestic work became less predictable and less desirable, many women turned to AFDC. In the initial years following AFDC expansion, there was a 125% increase in welfare roles, and poor Black women went from being the face of domestic servant labor to the face of welfare. And I want to emphasize this point. For the first time in the nation's history, the primary occupational role of poor Black women's gendered labor was no longer white household care, and this was a significant disturbance to the entrenched social hierarchy.
Breakfast in the home of Carol King, a Cleveland welfare mother with 9 children. On the days before the welfare check arrives, there is half an orange for each child.
Here, Nat.
Mrs. King has become involved in the welfare rights movement because she feels she doesn't get enough money to raise her family. She gets less than 80 cents a day for each of her children. The Ohio legislature approves only 3/4 of the amount that the state welfare department felt was a minimum necessity in 1959. The rise of ADC recipients in the last 6 years has been particularly dramatic among Negro families in the northern ghettos.
Though the reality of living on welfare was often described as humiliating and degrading, with families barely making ends meet, newspapers around this time were full of stories describing mothers who were cheating the system and receiving undeserved public money. Such women were named welfare queens, and in the public imagination, welfare queens were conceptualized as fat, lazy, bad mothers who irresponsibly gave birth to numerous children in order to receive more and more of unearned taxpayer money. The welfare queen supposedly lived a selfish, extravagant lifestyle based off the sweat of other people's labor, while her community deteriorated around her. Although segregated urban Black communities, or as they were called back then, ghettos or slums, had long been associated with social disorder and poverty since at least the early 20th century, magically, the mother on welfare was now thought to be the cause of the social ills in the segregated ghettos. If these women weren't so lazy and irresponsible, the argument went, they would be working tirelessly to clean up their communities and providing better examples for their children, like Mammy would have done. But this demonized welfare queen was a far cry from the beloved Mammy, or rather maybe they were just different versions of a distorted mirror image. Because just as Mammy was the figment of the imagination of a defeated South during a time of significant change in the social order, the welfare queen myth was also created by a nation grappling with a change in the existing social hierarchy. And both caricatures were reified through media, Mammy through Hollywood and merchandising, and the welfare queen through irresponsible and careless journalism. While the nation yearned for the time of Mammy, they were stuck with the welfare queen. And it is in this image of the welfare queen that we can begin to make sense of why a movie about Black people's upward mobility in an imagined 1970s Harlem sees Evillene as the main villain. Evillene is the personification of the lazy and vile welfare queen who is being blamed for all that was wrong in Black communities. She is what stands in the way of Black people's quest to achieve the fullness of the American dream. Evillene has all the markings of Mammy. She is large, dark-skinned, domineering, asexual, industrious, and influential. But while Mammy uses her personality to make the lives of others easier, Evillene uses all those attributes for herself and in service of her own goals. Mammy is a martyr who performs emotional and physical labor for the interests of others. Evillene demands such labor from others just for the privilege of coexisting with her. While Mammy's central question is, "What can I do for you?" Evillene's question is, "What will you do for me?" Mammy's domain is the home, most notably the kitchen, where she is a service worker. Evillene's domain is the factory, and not just any factory, but an actual sweatshop, where others literally work to death in order to please her. Mammy is unadorned and wears plain, serviceable, modest clothing. Evillene is ostentatious and gaudy. Even her toilet throne is bejeweled. Mammy is funny, wise, and doles out homespun truths. Evillene's face is literally incapable of smiling, and the only advice she has for us is work, work, work. Evillene flips the Mammy caricature on its head. While she may remind us of Mammy, she refuses to act in such a way. Evillene is the anti-Mammy. She is Mammy's lazy, self-interested, and unapologetic evil twin. Mammy exists on the bottom rung of a racialized, patriarchal world order by providing the emotional and domestic labor needed to support it. Mammy represents the correct order of things. But what would happen if that bottom rung began to act, behave, and demand like the very top rung, its inverse? Well, the Wiz tells us that the result would be grotesque. Evillene is the embodiment of a world turned upside down. I should also add here that it is no coincidence that Evillene's somewhat less reviled sister, Evillene, was the Parks Department commissioner, a high-ranking city government position which would have also been funded by taxpayer dollars. Both Evillene and Evillene point to a widespread rising fear and panic that comes from a disruption in social relations. Evillene terrifies us because she is what Freud would call an uncanny double of the beloved image of Mammy. The uncanny double is that which is familiar yet strange. We recognize Evillene, but her presentation is off. It's abnormal. We've been trained to see people who look like Evillene as unconditional care providers who want nothing more than to see to our needs. Yet here she is not only refusing, but also being mean and resentful, all while demanding things of us. Psychologically, this is unbearable and undermines the very world that we exist in. If we can't rely on the social hierarchy that we've taken for granted, then the world becomes very unstable. Freud also thought that the uncanny double frightens us because it brings something we've been trying to repress to our immediate attention. I think in this case, the danger of Mammy has been repressed by the very people who have claimed to love her the most. For all of Mammy's subservience and caregiving, she is made powerful through the very nature of the relationship. She is literally the hand that feeds those in her care and the hand that rocks the cradle, which means she is trusted with and has unrestricted influence over the things that make people the most vulnerable. She also knows the intimate secrets and has access to every nook and cranny of the home, yet we know little about her except for what she tells us. In this way, Mammy is powerfully threatening. The fear of Mammy is repressed in favor of the more comforting idea of a faithful, loving servant. As her uncanny double, Evillene brings repressed fears of Mammy's threatening power to the surface, and her demise after being flushed down a toilet, and her sister Evilleen's demise of being crushed by city infrastructure become wish fulfillment after our collective fear has been unearthed and brought to light. We cannot bear to live in a world where Black women, who we've been taught belong at the bottom of the hierarchy, not only exist to serve their own interests, but might also exhibit authority or power over us. Their very existence disrupts our sense of self and horrifies us.